All right. One of the big fights of the year closes out the calendar year for 2024 as it is Usyk against Fury 2, rematch of their fantastic heavyweight championship bout in the early part of this year. We have been previewing this fight card all week, looking at what it means for Usyk, what it means for Fury. Now we're going to break the fight down. Before we get into the preview for what is to come, I do think we have to look back at where we came from. Swig of water for the working man. Yeah, that's right. Novelty cup. Anyway, I went back and rewatched the first fight just to really get a sense of things. So just a quick recap of that. Usyk had way more early success than I remember. I had kind of had it in my mind that close-ish early, Fury pulls away in the middle, and then Usyk closes and just absolutely takes over at the end. But Usyk's pressure early was really fantastic. He had Fury cornered a few times, and honestly, I don't think he did really enough with that, but otherwise, just brilliance early on. The pressure, he was landing with great impact as well. It wasn't just some volume stuff. He was throwing and throwing hard and connecting on Tyson Fury. And that pressure was really having an effect. And the thing that you love about Usyk when you're watching him, there is absolutely no wasted motion. Every movement that he makes is with the sole purpose of finding a way to separate you from your consciousness. He is just an absolute tactician when it comes to the sweet science. I have thoroughly enjoyed what he has, what he can do from a skill standpoint. And then he really starts having some success, starting to put some combinations together. Lands a strong 3-punch combo in the second round. It was another close round in the third. I gave it to him. The DAZN broadcast with Maddox ended up giving it to Fury. And then Fury starts to really take over. He has some success in the fourth, and that's where things start to really grow on his side. And the big punch for him was the uppercut. He was landing it well as Usyk was coming in, and he really starts to dominate. Usyk's forward pressure still was really good, but he didn't have an answer for when Fury started to come forward a little bit, and he was starting to land basically every time that Usyk was closing the distance, to the point where Usyk would get inside and then cover up, because he has been almost trained for a couple of rounds to know that a bomb is coming at him every time he gets in, so it's instinctually covering up, and that just threw his rhythm and threw his timing off. And Fury did an amazing job of disrupting things in those middle rounds. As Usyk is coming in, it was that swinging, almost like Fight Night style uppercut that he would land that was really finding a home as Usyk was coming in. And then in the 8th round, Usyk gets it back. And I just mentioned Fight Night. It happens to me a lot because I'm not great at it. There are times where you'll go for a big punch in Fight Night and your guy will swing and he'll just kind of hang out there for a second before you can bring that back. That's kind of what Fury did. He landed a big shot and it took him half a beat to bring it back up here. And it was in that moment that Usyk lands just a devastating, cracking left that really, I think, changed the fight. And it was perfection. And it was the exact momentum changer that Usyk needed. And I have said that Fury needs to be, that Usyk needs to be perfect in 12 rounds in this fight because of the power advantage that Tyson Fury has, just being the naturally bigger guy. This fight showed that you have to be perfect against Usyk as well, because any opening at all, this guy is so technically proficient that he will find that opening, he will take advantage, and it's gonna hurt. And he did that in just a beautiful way. And from there, everything changed. Fury started to slow down. Usyk was able to get inside more, and he was the one, again, dictating that pace. And he started having some success with the way that I just, again, it warms my heart, because this is what I think is the best way to fight if you are the smaller fighter, is basically volume your way in. And he threw a double jab and then came over the top with a right that landed very effectively. The first 2 jabs came up short, but it forces Fury every time to just back up and back up. And so he's not circling away, he's not whatever, he is just moving kind of in a straight line, and it's allowing Usyk, every time he's throwing a punch, he's getting closer, and then he's getting closer, and now he's in range for that right, and it lands perfectly. So it is, I think, the best way to handle things as a smaller fighter. I've never boxed, so I could be wrong on that, but having watched this sport a lot, it seems like that is the way that allows guys to get inside quite a bit. And he did a great job of getting there. And then in the ninth, the big shot wobbles Fury. Eventually, he gets credit for the knockdown. And I do think in a lot of other situations, that would be a stoppage. I think that less so now watching it a second time than I did in the moment, because you're on edge the whole time, and it's okay, what's gonna happen? Oh, he's got him. Oh, he's got, that's it. You know, like you get really excited about it. You watch it back, and it's like, yeah, he is all over the place, stumbling. And I think just calling it a knockdown was fine. Yeah, and honestly, like, he took quite a bit of damage there, and that may have been a little bit detrimental to him as that went on, because he took a pretty sustained beating that you don't get a lot of times in boxing necessarily. But again, from there, Usyk is really starting to land flush, and Fury has just, like, it is not a like 2010's UFC heavyweight fight, or even a fucking 2FC10's boxing heavyweight fight. Like, it's not like just zombie mode where it's but Fury is just half a step slower, and he was already probably a beat or two slower than Usyk anyway, and so that just little drop looked so significant because of how quick and efficient Usyk still was in the 10th and 11th round. You do get a strong bounce back in the 12th round from Tyson Fury, but it's not enough as Usyk gets the victory. On my scorecard initially, I had it 111 or 117, 111. This time around, on my super official scorecard that we have here, I did end up giving it still to Usyk, but 115, 112. Someone in the YouTube comments, I went back and watched the video. Someone in the comments was just furious at me. 117, 111. How could you? It's like, I don't know. He still lost. And I'm not getting paid for it. So, but yeah, so you can see I have Usyk winning the first 3 rounds, and then Fury in that middle round, 4, 5, 6, 7. It feels like he's starting to take over. He now has the lead in this fight, and things are going this way. And then he gets cracked in the He gets cracked in the 9th, and then he gets gets cracked in the 8th, gets dropped in the 9th, and then 10th and 11th, Usyk is building that momentum. You do get Fury coming out with a 10-9 round in the 12th, but that big 10-8 in the middle there is enough. And like on the 3 judges' scorecards, only one of them had it 115, 112. The other 2 had it 114, 113. So that knockdown is the difference in this fight. So that, again, probably a bit closer than I thought it was after the first watch, and now going back and watching it a second time, it was just a nice reminder of seeing how everything goes. So now it is time to break down the second fight. Tyson Fury comes into this gigantic main event in Saudi Arabia at 36 years old, out of Manchester, England, 34-1-1 with 24 wins coming by way of knockout. He comes into this fight in what is a rare spot for him, the challenger, as he suffered a split decision loss to Oleksandr Usyk back in May of this year, 2024, again in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. His first career loss for the former unified heavyweight champion. He had won 7 in a row since a draw to Deontay Wilder back in Los Angeles in 2018. He has been on and off, obviously, throughout his career. We talked earlier in the week about everything that this man has gone through, and we talked about all the negative stuff too. But when you're looking at the sport, he beats Klitschko in 2015, doesn't fight again until 2018, goes through a severe depression, and is working his way back and gets back to the top of the mountain. But we haven't seen him fight often. This is just the second time that he is fighting twice in a year since 2020. He's been a pro since 2008. Usyk is the reigning and defending heavyweight champion for most promotions. He is 37 years old, born in Ukraine, 22 fights, 22 wins, 14 of them by knockout. His last fight, as we discussed, a split decision win over Tyson Fury back in May in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. He has 5 decision wins in his last 6, the only knockout win coming against Dubois, which is seeming more and more impressive as the days go along. He is the WBC, WBA, WBO, IBO, and Ring Magazine heavyweight champion of the world. He was stripped of his IBF heavyweight championship for no good goddamn reason, so this fight is not for the undisputed heavyweight championship, it's just for most of them. He is a former unified cruiserweight champion as well. The 2012 Olympic gold medalist has been a pro since 2013. The first fight gave us incredible drama, and it gave us a few answers, but even more questions. So let's look at how this fight could go down. What does Tyson Fury need to do to win this fight? The jab was working for him early in that bout, but he didn't really follow it up with anything until the middle rounds. And I think that did allow Usyk to kind of get inside. Like, yes, that jab, it hurts. I would not want to get jabbed by Tyson Fury. But that jab, it got in the way, and it's an effective jab. Like, he's not just filling space with it, but when you know nothing's coming behind it, and you're as tough as Usyk is, it's like, yeah, I can take a punch. I can take a jab to get inside, and that allowed him to get some success. When he started to really put the combinations together is when you really started to see him have some success and start to be able to build on things a little bit. And that is where he was able to get that forward momentum in the middle rounds. Defensively, his head movement is very good. From a footwork standpoint, like for heavyweights, he's insane. But he did end up getting cornered a few too many times, especially early on in the fight. And I think that has to change here. I don't know if Usyk was necessarily anticipating that, quite frankly, because he would just get him there and then nothing would really happen. And Fury would do a lot of the ducking and diving in the Muhammad Ali stuff. And I don't think that threw Usyk off by any stretch of the imagination, but Usyk wasn't in there just throwing bombs and getting into a real phone booth fight or anything like that. But I do think that if Fury gets into the corners again here at the same rate that he did against Usyk in the first fight, that it's probably not going to go well for him. Just another note. People have been talking about that first fight, and yeah, he's doing the goofy and he's laughing and he's doing all the head movement and he's putting his hands behind his back and oh, you know what? He's taking Usyk he's not taking Usyk seriously enough. And that might be true. And that's probably what they told themselves at certain times throughout this training camp and watching the footage back of the fight back in May. But I also think Tyson Fury has a personality where he kind of has to do that kind of stuff. I don't think it is him not taking Usyk seriously. Honestly, I think it is kind of a very, very strange way of showing it, but it is actually a sign of respect to Usyk. Like, I can't just be super serious guy in here. That is not me. That is not how I do things. And if I do that, I'm going to be actually off my game, and that's going to cost me. He needs to be himself in there. And so if that means some of the personality stuff, then that means some of the personality stuff I think has to shine through. Where he really started to have success was when he started to disrupt the rhythm of Oleksandr Usyk and landing those big power shots when he was coming in. That was the answer to Usyk's forward pressure. It was the fantastic jab and then the counters that were working well as Usyk was coming in. And it was the big uppercuts that were landing as well. And he would work the body a little bit as well. But I've said as well way too many times now. But it was those big uppercuts as Usyk is coming in that were the real impactful punches in those middle rounds. Again, when Fury was having that success. We look here on the scoreboard, the scorecard that I had for the first fight. I'm circling with my mouse. You can't see that. But in the 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th, the third is when he started to follow up with the combos. And that just put a slight hitch in the giddy up of Usyk and slowed that roll enough that by the time the 4th round is here, then all of a sudden Usyk's coming in, but it is not with the same aggression. It is not with the same force, and it is allowing those swinging uppercuts and those not looping rights, but those quick rights that are coming from nowhere. That allows that to really start to take a hold, and that's why you see for those watching, sorry, podcast listeners, but that's why you see the orange in the middle rounds there, because he continued to have that success with those uppercuts. One thing that concerns me about this fight from the Fury side of things is all the stuff we are hearing about him losing a bunch of weight for this fight. And now I am taping this on Thursday at 3:22 p.m. Mountain Time. So for those watching the preview later on YouTube, I have not seen the weigh-in yet. So maybe he's coming in at 295 pounds and this whole little blurb is whatever. But I promise there's more good stuff after. I worry about, though, the talk that we are hearing that he has been losing a bunch of weight for this fight. You're not going to out-cardio, out-speed, or out-quickness Usyk. That is not going to happen. He did not lose this fight because you wore out. You lost because he was able to get inside and land those power shots. And that's why the stamina bar, video game style-wise, starts to come down a little bit. It's not because you personally lost anything there. It is because he found his way to your chin, and that's why things started to go down. And so I think it is maybe learning the wrong lesson from what we saw. And it is also, I think, not really playing to your strengths in this. If you wanted to take a year or whatever and really try to get down and just be a bigger version of an Usyk, I think Tyson Fury could. Like, he is already almost there now, quite frankly. Like, what Usyk is speed, cardio, and quickness wise to Fury is what Fury is speed, cardio, and quickness wise to everyone else basically he's ever fought. He's just also bigger than them, which is why he is such a rare talent with what he is able to do. And so, like, yes, it is, in theory, you think, okay, well, this guy has the cardio edge and the speed edge. Let me get a little bit smaller, trim down, and now that edge goes away. But that takes away the biggest edge that you have, is the power and the size that you can kind of wear on this guy with and be able to put him away that way. And so I worry that by doing this, Fury is just kind of become a lesser version of Usyk and not a stronger version of himself. I would love to see, instead, if we want to balance off that cardio standpoint and where Fury's camp, I think more shots to the body need to happen. Again, especially when he is taking over in those middle rounds. It's not that anything was going wrong. He was cruising at that point. But if there is a bit of a gap, it lessens every time the 260-pound guy punches the 220-pound guy in the stomach. That's how humans work. So I feel like there could be more done strategically to wear down Usyk this time around. I also wonder if we do see a little bit more grabbing from Fury. That would mean that Usyk is getting inside, which would not be good, as we've talked about before. But I do wonder if there's just a little bit more trying to, especially early on, trying to make Usyk carry his weight a little bit, try to wear on him a little bit, and try to, again, bring it down to your level that way. But again, from a purely in the ring standpoint, I want to be very clear about that. From a purely in the ring standpoint, I have such a respect for the skills of Tyson Fury, the cardio that he can have at his size, the speed that he has at his size. He is a very intelligent fighter, I think, as well. Like, he is, from an in-ring boxing standpoint, about as close to a perfect package that we have had at heavyweight in a really, really long time. He is just happening to fight someone who is a very good version of that as well. I now looking at what Usyk needs to do to win this fight. I will always love throwing out the decoys to get inside for the small fighter, and he did that very well as a good adjustment as that fight went on. I would assume we see that maybe a little bit earlier. I would also assume that Tyson Fury has somewhat of a counter for that. That was the fun part about the last fight, is it starts out with Usyk, that forward pressure, getting him the points early on. Again, I'll pull up the scorecard for those watching. First 3 rounds, Usyk, he is getting that forward pressure. He is putting that on, and he is getting the opportunities, and he is taking advantage of them. Middle rounds, Fury has adjusted. How has he done it? He has landed as Usyk is coming in. He has landed with great impact, and that is slowing things up and making Usyk maybe a little bit more hesitant and allowing Fury to get on the front foot and really start to pressure and fight the fight that he wants. In the 8th round, Fury is sloppy for a second. Usyk takes advantage, lands the power shot. And at this point, Fury, because we have now fought for 24 minutes, which is a lot when you're huge, or just anyone, like 145-pound guys wear down at that point. Because we have been in this intense battle for this long, we have started to wear down a little bit, and that speed edge is really showing up for Usyk, and he is able to take over. And so this was such a fun fight to watch because of adjustment and then adjustment. And that is just, there's a lot of great things about boxing. But it's one of my favorite things about the sport is you can have, because there are 12 rounds and it's a 36-round fight, you have time to download the information and adjust. And so you have to counter, and you have to have a counter for the counter. And there's a story that can be told throughout that fight. And so I am very curious to see who has the adjustments for the adjustments in this particular bout that is going to give them the victory. And so you would assume that Fury is going to be ready for that second adjustment that Usyk was able to make in being able to kind of decoy his way into the inside and be where he wants to be. He has to be the aggressor in this fight. As with everyone, Fury doesn't throw quite as well when he is backing up, and so that forward pressure is key. Fury was still landing when Usyk was coming forward, but it just wasn't with the same impact as when Fury was really starting to come forward. It seems very, very simple, but the fighter that was coming forward basically won every round. of that fight. And so you have to be the aggressor if you are Oleksandr Usyk in this bout. When it was going well, it was perfect last time. Like 10 out of 10, no notes. It was incredible, the speed, accuracy, and precision that Usyk was fighting with that gave him the wins that kind of bookend the fight at the beginning and the end of this one. When it is going well, I don't know if there is a human being on earth and some cars that can stop Oleksandr Usyk. I do think that maybe he needs to do a little bit more with the advantage when Fury is in the corner. I think that will really help him in this fight. When Fury gets cornered up, just go back to the body and get that going. That was another thing. I forgot to mention that in the breakdown of the first one, but another part of how Usyk was able to get his kind of flow back and his momentum going was he was able to get a couple body shots, and that allowed the rhythm to get back, and that allowed him to get back into his groove and bop, and then go back to the head and do all of that. And it made for, I think, a very interesting fight and a lot of effectiveness that kind of got him going forward a little bit more and a little bit more each time. So I think that there is a lot that Usyk can take from that last fight. But again, just the one tweak that I would like is a few more body shots and take full advantage when Tyson Fury is in the corner. Yes, his movement is very good, but the head movement's great. That body does kind of stay there, though. There's only so much you can do with that, and so that's where I think Usyk can take advantage of that. Again, I think he is the most talented fighter in the world, and so me giving any pointers to him is laughable, but just from an observation standpoint, this is what I'm looking for in this fight. It is such an interesting bout, because even after 12 rounds, you still have unanswered questions. Fury's speed, chin, and cardio make him a unicorn in the heavyweight division, but he is facing the one guy at heavyweight who can pass him in all of those areas and still has the power to make him pay. Again, Usyk is doing to Fury what Fury basically did to Klitschko and did to the rest of the heavyweight division for years. He is now just doing it in a smaller package than we are used to, but it is still so technical and so fun to watch. The first fight was a brilliant display of in-fight adjustments from both fighters, creating a classic, and also creating a lot of doubt as to what could happen in rounds 13 to 24 this time around. I cannot wait for these two guys to step into the ring on Saturday afternoon out in Saudi Arabia. My official prediction is Oleksandr Usyk to win by decision. From a gambling standpoint, if we want to look at it that way, Usyk to win is minus 125. That will certainly be getting a click from ya boy. Also, we have Usyk by decision is plus 185. That is going to be the biggest part of what we are looking at. The biggest, exposure I will have this weekend is Usyk by decision at plus 185. Also, I do think, while I've kind of mentioned the general shittiness of boxing, with the IBF stripping Usyk for no reason at all for the heavyweight title, this is not a sport that is immune to shenanigans. And so I have shenanigans insurance, because you look at, like, what is next after this? And we'll get into fights to make after this next week. Oh, it wouldn't let you raid. That's very weird. I don't know why. Don't know why I wouldn't. Either way, shout out Deeds. Thank you very much. Appreciate the attempt anyway. But yes, looking at this fight and looking at what could come next, and we're going to look a lot at what is next week, even with a lot of the year in review things that are going to be going on. I think when you look at what could be next, the obvious thing is if Fury wins, there's a rematch, and there's a trilogy, and it's one of the biggest fights ever. If Usyk wins, Fury's kind of done. Joshua, the next biggest name, he's done, basically, right? Like, he's lost. Dubois is the next big name. Usyk's already beat him, and it's not really that big of a name, is it? Like, it is, from a box office standpoint, significantly more beneficial for Tyson Fury to win this fight. And boxing sometimes just seems to have that stuff work out. You know? So I have, like I have said, shenanigans insurance by looking at this fight as a draw, which I believe right now is plus 1,400 out there. I am not going to go as far as to putting it down on Fury, because then, like, we're spread all over, and at that point it's not worth it. But again, just a little bit of the shenanigans insurance that this fight goes to a draw at 14-1 right now.